Okay, all right. So welcome to Illuminating Rounds. It's episode 18. Martin, how you doing? Looking very well.
I'm looking particularly handsome, I think,
You
in
are.
comparison to some previous images that some people may have seen.
Some distributed images. They've made themselves onto the dark web now, and you're selling for 3 bitcoins a picture. Your picture.
Amazing, amazing. Yeah, I've gone viral.
You literally have. So anyway, so it's great to see you back and well and smiling. So and with a newer webcam as well, looking very
Yeah,
smart. So
yeah.
looking good there, looking good. All right, so we've got an interesting. We are midway through one of our games right now. So we were going to do this. We're going to talk about Galician Getaway, but actually we're still midway through that game as we speak. So we are going to talk a little bit about some other things that happened today and show you a game that we played last week. First thing to do though, go on, Martin.
Oh, I was going to say, but we should mention that it is with the world famous
It's
Toby Piling.
Toby Piling, indeed, exactly that.
Yeah,
We're exactly that. So first things though is to talk about our patrons. So we've got 5 new
yes,
patrons. So thank you very much, guys.
absolutely.
John Lemon, Brian Garsh, Pierce Mason, Toxteth, and David Shannon. Thank you very much, guys. That's really appreciated. We are going to
Absolutely.
do a draw next week for a Winter Offensive bonus pack. So we are going to do that next time. So you guys are in the draw for that. And obviously, if you've already got a copy of it, then we'll find something else for you. So thank you again.
Absolutely. And it also means that we are preparing for a live match. Is
We
that
are.
right?
We hit our
Mm,
target. Yeah, we did hit our target. So the question here is: so we ideally was going to do this like via Twitch or something like that, and we were going
mm.
to stream. Obviously, with the lockdown still in place right now for the UK at least, we are either going to. In fact, we can probably do both, Martin. I guess
Mm.
we can do a vassal game that we will stream live on Twitch or YouTube or something,
Yeah.
and we'll also do perhaps a live one as well when we meet again. It's been too long, hasn't it?
That's true. No, we'll do it on Twitch or YouTube or something like that because it's going to be a while, I think, before we're allowed to meet up.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
But what if no one watches?
Then, do you know something? The trees still make a noise when they fall in the woods. We're okay. That game will have happened. We'll log it. It's okay. So, a quick mention to the playtest scenario.
Yeah,
So that's been having Mikhail, I think, has been done a lot of work, hasn't he, on the playtest there.
and
So
and and his friends as well. It's not just Michelle Mikhail, but yeah, absolutely.
yeah, some brilliant feedback, and we also got some feedback again from Toby as well. Toby Piling, we're going to
Mm.
mention him as well a lot through this episode. But it's looking really good now, isn't it?
It's looking really good. It looks like I think it'll be a great scenario in the end. It's not balanced, I think, at the moment, and that's what we're trying to sort of play test and
Yeah,
get that right. But the actual basics,
yeah.
scenario is kind of in place really.
And it's not a million miles off, is it? I think, when we say it's
No,
not balanced, we're not saying it's unwinnable for one side or the other. We're saying it's
yeah, it just needs
it's
a
got
little
time.
fine tuning and
Yeah.
stuff like that. I think, yeah,
And in
yeah.
fact, Toby actually suggested sending it over to MP as well. So he was that impressed with the scenario that
He was indeed, yeah,
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 exactly. So I guess we should introduce why we're talking about Toby. So Toby got in touch. Toby
yeah,
Piling, for those that don't know, Toby is a very, very, very good player. Probably, I think, undoubtedly the best UK player. Maybe a
yeah,
couple of people might have a different opinion on that, but I mean,
yeah.
generally, he is the best player in the UK, and I think he's somewhere in the top 5 of the world. I mean, I think if you look at his area rating, he's very, very high up there. He's a lovely guy. He's an incredibly good player. I think we should build up how good a bunch he is. Isn't he? He's a very good player because we got to
We
play
should
him.
definitely build it up.
We
Yeah,
should definitely build him up.
almost unbeatable.
Yeah, some might say. So he got in touch with us, and he's a couple of bits and pieces. So first things first, he said to us he would like to take on the challenge of the 20 years later setup. So for those that don't remember, a couple of episodes ago we talked about coming up with a better scenario setup for the Germans, and Toby took on the challenge of trying to come up with a better
Yeah.
scenario, and then went one step further and challenged us to a game with him playing the Germans. So we are going to go through that game today, and we're going to talk you through what happened. The other thing that Toby did was he would like to give some advice and to give some help to players, and this is something that you and I, Martin, aren't able to do
Yeah.
in terms of take people to the absolute next level. I mean, we are
Yes.
by all definitions average players. I think is a fair
Yeah.
statement. Toby is a great player, so Toby's offering to give people really good advice. Now, the offer particularly is aimed at Patreons because he'd like to get people to support this channel. So thank you, Toby, for that. The plan is that if you are a Patreon and you'd like to ask Toby a particular question, be it a setup or be it a rules advice question or anything that you can think of, post it over to us and we will get Toby to answer that, and we'll make a little kind of segment for that. And I think that has the ability to really help us. We've lined Toby up with a question this week, and we're going to play a segment about how do you get better, just in general. How does a player get better? And I think that's a really useful thing for everybody to learn. And there's a good tip there and a good bit of advice. The other thing that Toby is proposing to do, and this will depend on lockdowns and things like that, is he's offering to, at the next UK tournament in Blackpool, he's offering to give a patron a session, like a full scenario or a session just to themselves, just a real coaching session. So if you are a Patreon and you would like to get involved in that, or if you'd like to become a Patreon to get involved in the potential chance to have Toby give you a real masterclass, then by all means, please do get in touch, sign up, and Toby will potentially help you. Now, again, he can't commit definitely to it because, of course, if the lockdowns are still in place or for whatever reason, if he can't make it. But knowing Toby, I'm sure he'll put everything he can to actually help you out. So it's a very exciting opportunity.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, so I guess, Martin, first of all, what have you been playing this week or last week?
Well, I've been very, very busy with playing, actually. So we decided, or I decided, to concede with my Pegasus Bridge campaign game. Just realised that I was bashing my head against a brick wall. Really, my casualties were mounting up. The British were staying in a pretty solid position. It didn't look to me like it was winnable. So I resigned that, and we have started Purple Heart Draw, which actually I played before as the Germans. This time I'm playing as the Americans against Martin. What a fantastic campaign game! Very, very manageable in terms of its size. Of course, Lone Canuck, shout out to them because I do think it's a masterful campaign game. We only got started last night. Of course, all my tanks are burning wrecks, but it's a lot of fun. Really enjoying it. I think I'm successfully and painfully slowly clearing the north side of the, I can't remember what they call it, the kind of the sort of deep gully thing that they've got. Clearing the north side of that of what are turning out to be dummies.
No.
So
and you're doing okay against those, are you?
I'm doing all right against them. So Martin actually can outmaneuver and defeat me with dummies. It's a remarkable thing to see.
Now you've played this before. You put it as one of your top scenarios / campaign games you played before. Do you have the same side as you had before?
No. So I played as the Germans last time against Martin Willig, the great well-known
Ian Willig.
Ian Willig. Sorry, what did I call him?
Martin.
Gosh, not everybody who plays ASL in the UK is called Martin. No. Ian Willig, and he played as the Americans in that. But yes, just a very, very good, very, very good campaign game. So really looking forward to that and filling people in on what we're doing.
Okay.
I also played John O'Reilly in Ireland. Very, very bright guy. We played WO16 Wildcat Strike.
Mm-hmm.
I was the defending Japanese. John's a very, very good player. I managed to get a win out of John, but I totally diced him. It's the kind of thing, I have no sort of sympathy for you because I play you all the time, and you know what it's like playing against me with my dice, my good fortune. But seeing it through John's eyes, I just thought this is outrageous. Absolutely smashing this guy to pieces. He couldn't roll less than about a 9. I 5s, 4s, 3s every time. So
sometimes I know you get good when you start complaining when you roll a 6, and in total, and it's brilliant because there's no issue at all. We love you doing it. As we were saying, we bring you in for a specialist dice roller. So you're you could be in a circus. I think that in the Victorian times you would be lined up. People would pay money. to see
Carl
you.
watched me roll dice.
Yeah, yeah.
So we had a great game, and he's he's a lovely guy. He's got great spirited games. So it was a lot of fun, and I hope we play again soon, and normality is restored, and John smashes me to pieces the way he normally does.
John, Johnny's a great player, very, very strong player, and I know. You definitely need I definitely need a run luck, to stay in the game. There's no question. But he takes it in good spirits, so that's all good.
I'm playing Nick Manson as well. I've been playing Nick online. Through play by email, and also face to face through Vassal.
Right.
He lives very near to me, so we used to perhaps meet up every couple of months or whatever.
Okay.
But we've just played, but been very good. A lot of ASL going on at the moment. But the final thing, of course, is the Vassal League that Martin Vicker in Scotland has started up. I'm doing that as well.
Okay.
I got drawn to play against Derek Cox, who actually I know very well.
This is a really nice tournament because this is putting people against who know really a lot about Vassal, and then pairing them against people who don't know a lot about Vassals. It's a great idea.
So Derek Cox is a very experienced player, better player than I am. I think it would be fair to say, but he doesn't have the experience on Vassal, and whereas I'm quite experienced on Vassal, so that's why we've been paired together.
I guess the problem's going to be when all the good players beat all the Vassal helpers.
Yeah.
they're in it to get on their own then, aren't they? They're going to struggle. Yeah. But it's a great idea from Martin, and well done for doing that. That's great. So I played a couple of scenarios. So I played I've got to think of the names of them now. The Wilderness. It was the Winter Offensive Wilderness. I played Death to Fascism against Tony in Scotland for the Death to Fascism tournament. That's a crazy scenario, really, really good. And I also played Fast and Furious as well against Steve Cook. Both of these are quite interesting. So the Death to Fascism scenarios feature a couple of different things. One is they've all got a particular SSR that says that leaders and sport weapons don't have to. They can start hip if you're defending. You also had the ability to buy and extra support weapons and things like that for each scenario. So it's quite a nice. Every scenario is a little bit different because you can buy things a little bit differently. Really, really interesting scenarios. They were good. The tricky one for Fast and Furious was that it really just came down to a whole load of armoured cars running up against what were 527s and with Panzerfaust, bizarrely. So Romanians with Panzerfaust. So it's a bit tricky because obviously if you miss those shots, then these guys kind of fly off. But it was but an interesting scenario because there's different bridges on the board, and you can do all kinds of sort of crazy things with a setup. And Death to Fascism, really, really nice kind of signature scenario, if you like, from the Death to Fascism pack. So,
Steve Cook, were you playing him at the tournament?
Both I played him in the tournament in Blackpool, and then I played him again in the Death to Fascism tournament. So yes, I got him played him twice. So nice, and he was great. He was really nice. And then again played Tony again in the Wilderness scenario from the Winter Offensive, and that was an amazing scenario. This one I'm putting now in the background, but the amount of it's a big scenario, 15 or so defenders across 2 or 3 boards, but the movement required for defenders sometimes scenarios don't have as much movement for defenders, and this was absolutely brilliant. So really, really impressed. So good scenarios. Enjoyed those. So I want to talk a bit about top fives. So top five this week, nice and straightforward. I'm going to do the top 5 contributors to the ASL Scenario Archive. So here is my segment for those guys. And guys, again, thank you very much for that. Okay, so here's the top 5 list for the ASL Scenario Archive's contributors. Obviously, the Scenario Archive really can't exist without everybody's assistance, and that's really down to a core set of people. Obviously, everybody that's inserted any kind of data at all is part of the process. And for the 14 years that the archive's been going, we've had over 178,000 updates which is pretty phenomenal, really. So an update might be something along the lines of someone adding an image or amending the unit count for a scenario, even uploading a scenario or an AAR, updating their collection. All of that information is really, really useful, and it goes to making what is a really nice collection of data and scenarios that we can all enjoy. So I want to give a shout out first of all to the some guys that didn't quite make the top 5. First of all, the late Fred Ingram, who was one of the early pioneers in uploading a lot of data to the archive. He's obviously sorely missed, and never got to meet him, but he was frequently in touch with me whilst he was updating the archive's content. We also have Brian Kemp, who did a lot of work, and George Harvey, who's currently doing a lot of work as well for the archive as well. So guys, thank you. I notice everything you do, and I really, really appreciate it. So on to the top 5 in reverse order. So number 5, Nathan Wegener. So Nathan, sorry for mispronouncing your name there. Nathan has done a huge amount of work on the scenario dates. He has updated, and these numbers, by the way, are just phenomenal any way you look at them. So, you know, just incredible numbers. Nathan, just before I even tell you, for example, how many edits Nathan's made, have a guess, you know, in your own mind, how many edits someone might make to the scenario dates on scenarios. So obviously, you know, when we're looking at a different scenario, we might take a look at you know, the information here about what the date is. We might look at the overview, you know, the turns, whatever, the different units, the unit counts here. Nathan has edited over 4,000 dates on the scenarios. I mean, just an incredible number. I mean, 4,000. He's modified over 200 intro texts for different scenarios, and he's also uploaded 400 scenarios. So, I mean, again, Nathan, thank you very much. It's incredible and really, really appreciated. In number 4, Matt Tallingtire. Now, Matt has done, again, phenomenal work. Matt has created over 9,000 edits to the unit counts for each scenario. So, I mean, just, you know, 9,000, that's just, you know, just amazing. He's also updated 452 unit counts. So this is where you can see the victory conditions, where you can see the different victory conditions for each scenario, and he's also uploaded over 142 scenarios as well from various packs. So Matt, thank you very much. And so just to give you an idea of these points as well, Nathan, so the archive attributes points to people when they just add something to the scenario archive. So, you know, you might get a point for adding your collection, updating your collection. You might get a couple of points for modifying or adding a rating to the scenario or recording a play. So Nathan scored 6,000 points in total. So again, nothing for just points really, but you know, 6,000 points. Matt has scored 12,000 points in a lifetime from the archive, and that moves us on to number 3. Number 3 is our good friend and patron, Reed Hutchison. So Reed, thank you again. You have scored 16,000 points. Reed has, again, I mean, these numbers are just incredible. Modified 500 designers. So he has been updating the designer field on a lot of these scenarios. So things like here where we can see who designed the scenario. So we've done 500 of those. He's also done 10,000 scenario dates. So this is where, you know, you make an edit to a date, just correcting the date that's in there by default from some scenarios. He has added 369 scenarios to the archive, and he has also logged plays and everything like that. So Reed has scored 16,000 points. So Reed, thank you very much, and again, thank you for your patronage as well. Brilliant. Number 2 is Dan Best. Dan is speciality for add-in scenarios. So Dan has added over 1,200 scenarios. Adding a scenario is a bit of a pain. It's not as straightforward as I'd like it to be. It's a little bit fiddly. Dan has done 1,200 of these. So, you know, if you are looking at a scenario on the scenario archive, the chances are Dan, Reed, maybe Matt has uploaded that, and so again, guys, thank you very much. I don't do any of the new scenarios, so don't thank me if anybody else is thinking about the fact that I may add these scenarios. I don't. It's all down to volunteers. These guys don't get paid anything. They don't. They don't get a free subscription to the scenario archive or anything like that. There's nothing going on like that. It's just genuinely they do it out of the good of their heart and for the community. So it's incredible. And that brings us on to number one. Now, Dan had scored 18,000 points. So if you kind of think about this, top contributors, Nathan, huge amounts of contribution, 6,000 points. Matt, 12,000. Reed, 16,000. Dan, 18,000. Jim Hoxie. Jim is the star of the graphic and the board areas of scenarios. So if you look at these kind of areas like this, where we've got the graphic, maybe the images, maybe we've got the map view, Jim has uploaded an incredible amount of data. So to give you an idea of what Jim has done, Jim has uploaded over 300 pieces of errata. If there's an errata for any scenario, it will appear here. Jim's uploaded over 300 errata, so that's just a start. He's added 568 scenarios to the scenario archive, so just incredible. He has added 21,000 images to the scenario archive. So images like this and like this one here, things that just kind of give the scenario archive a little bit of color, a little bit of flavor. He has been doing things like that. So again, just it makes the site pop out a little bit. It's a little bit nicer to look at. He has uploaded 6,700 board images. 6,700 board images. I mean, it's just incredible. And has made over 52,000 edits to the scenario overviews. So obviously these get edited, they get picked up, typos get made and things like that. 52,000 of those. He's added 568 scenarios. I mean, just an incredible amount. And in terms of points scored, Jim has scored 190,000 points. So more than 10 times the second amount of points that someone else has scored. Jim, thank you. If you're watching this, and Dan and Reed and Matt and Nathan, give me a shout out. We'll get you a t-shirt over just to say thank you for all your work. What I've also done is I've added on the scenario archive, I've added the top ever contributors down here, so you can see them here. These are the points and everything, just to sort of kind of point out exactly what everybody's done. Guys, anybody who uploads anything to the scenario archive, it is ridiculously appreciated, so thank you. I can only run this site because of people like you that can help maintain it. So again, thank you very much. Get in touch if you want a t-shirt. Thank you. And I mean, the other thing I've also not mentioned is the amount of communication I get from many of these contributors and others that I've mentioned about features or bugs. There was a lot of talk recently about the ratings, and we're trying to fix that up, and I think that's now looking a lot better. So we can kind of show what the ratings look like and what's going on there. So anybody who's done any kind of work, thanks very much for that. It's really appreciated, and keep going. Don't stop, guys. Don't stop. Thank you. Okay, so again, guys, thanks very much for all you do on the archive. I get a lot of emails thanking me for the site, but it really is down to you guys. So again, thank you very much. All right, Martin.
Yeah, no, I wanted to thank a guy called Derek Ritter, who's on YouTube, and he's done an amazingly clear explanation of how to do paradrops in ASL, specifically with the Japanese. It made me. I've done paradrops before, and I think we should feature paradrops one day, but I've always been a little bit confused about the rules, and this was just an absolutely brilliant explanation. So well done to Derek Ritter. You've inspired me. I've even dug out the old Crete module that Sean Carter was involved in. Do you remember that one?
Operation Mercure.
Is it just?
Is that one?
Yeah, I can't remember what it's called now, but yeah.
Okay. Right.
Operation Mercury is the name of the operation, isn't it? So,
right.
But it's the Crete one that Bowling. Is it Bowling Fire or?
I mean, you do your research. That's what I was going to say.
I do. I make sure I'm fully researched before these
Yes,
programs.
yeah.
Yeah.
You have to fire that research that helped you out with this segment, though. Okay, yeah, no problems. We can, look it up and we'll find
Yeah,
out.
yeah, yeah.
And the other thing I should mention is one of our newest patrons has asked us to play a seabourne assault, and I think that's a great idea. I know you love them.
Seabourne assaults. Yeah.
You absolutely love them. So what we will do is we'll do that. I guess
And could Derek Ritter do a YouTube thing explaining how to do seabourne assaults before?
Definitely, yeah, that would really help us. So if you have a suggestion for which seabourne assault we should play, obviously, keep it relatively small because it will take us an awful long time to play it. But if you've got a particular one you think is a good idea, by all means send it over. I'm sure we've got it. If not, we can grab a copy from somewhere. So send us a suggestion and we will feature that in not next episode but the episode afterwards, because I think it's going to be Galician Getaway next episode. So I'm looking forward to that. And Martin, do you fancy wading across the shore, or are you a defender of the seabourne assault?
Do you know, I quite fancy attacking.
Okay, I quite fancy defending, so sounds good. Sounds good to me. All right, excellent. Okay, so let's talk Toby. So we had a setup from Toby. This is from 20 years later, so flicking back to what we think is really all about a very difficult scenario for the Germans. So here's Toby in his own words explaining how he got involved and all about his setup.
Hello, it's Toby Piling here. Just to say, I've been enjoying the Illuminating Rounds podcast so much, I got in contact with Dave and Martin to volunteer to put some input into it. And the first way I did was I was quite interested in the scenario that they'd chosen to look at a few times 20 years later. And they sort of came up with a challenge of devising a setup, a German setup for that scenario. And I took up the gauntlet, basically. It can be seen on episode 16 of Illuminating Rounds, around the sort of 36-minute, 20-second mark. And what I observed, to me, it looked rather spread out. I felt it was still too easy for the French to get into the woods on the west flank. And so the defence that I constructed very much disguises where the light machine gun and leader stacks are. Basically, almost every stack could be one. And I'm also hoping that the French believe they won't both be on the west flank, which indeed they are, because I believe that wood mass on the west flank, if the French get into that, they're almost definitely going to win. And the other thing I elected to do was not deploy any of the German squads. I just believe that extra hex of range, 4 range, is very useful on turn 1 at putting down residual firepower in key locations if they try getting off in the centre or south. And it can also be noticed that I put a few squads up at first level to see over walls. And that is about it, really, with regards to my own setup. I suppose I took a risk with a leader, light machine gun and squad in the brush. We'll see what happens. That's it.
Okay, all right. So yes, Martin. So this is the setup we came up with. What do we think of Toby's setup, and what did we do in response?
Okay, so the first thing to think about really is how do you want the French forces to run off the board? And it seemed to us, I think, that the sort of northern route looks a lot safer than the southern route, where there's much less cover. So then what we had to decide was, where was Toby set up, and the squads, the two sort of stacks in the north look like a leader, a machine gun, and a squad. So they both look like that. Now we've also worked out that there must be at least 6 dummy counters out there somewhere. So so what we're hoping, I suppose, is that both of them are not a squad, a machine gun,
right,
and a leader. So having said that, it was far too big a risk. I think if we were going to try and get off in the north, to not try to to break DD1 just in case it was
Right.
really was a leader. It would just be it'd be impossible, I think, to sneak off. So we set up to do prep fire, and as you can see,
Exactly.
the units set up there give us 20 halved, isn't it? So
Yeah. So the idea there was we could have 2 lots of 8 shot, an 8 shot from EE1,
that's
and
right.
then
Yeah.
potentially if that didn't break but it revealed, then we had another 4. A 8 flat and a 4 flat shot into DD1.
Yeah.
And then in theory, if that was a real unit, then we'd be in better chance if we broke it. Of course, the risk we had here is that we'd already said that we think that the French easiest route is to the north. The top side of this map, and so arguably Toby might have double guessed us or second guessed us and tried to think, okay, well, we'll go to the south this time. So potentially all of these could have been dummies, and we might have had a very straightforward win. So there was always a risk, wasn't there, that he was going to, I know which you know and you know what I know.
Exactly, yeah. We just didn't know, did we? Yeah. I must admit, I felt fairly sure he wouldn't put both light machine guns on the same flank.
Right. Yeah.
So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Now, Toby critiqued our setup in response by telling us that we should never put our leaders on the top, which is good advice for a setup. We should also point out that Toby was not playing by Vassal. So Toby was playing on a real board, and we were Skyping, and you and I were on Vassal against him. So we don't see Toby's rolls, but Toby's completely trustworthy, as we'll see in the dice rolling that he manages to dice himself occasionally. So so that was all fine. So
I think in this situation you would be able to work out probably you make a very good guess about where the leaders were, but I think generally speaking it is good advice, isn't it, to try to have a bit of deception about them.
Exactly. All right, so our strategy is just to basically make that prep fire shot into DD1 and then run. Yeah, exactly. So let's see what
FF3's, they're obviously in position to try to stop him from chasing us or slow down any chase, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's for a fire lane there. So here we go. So this is what happened for our game. We can see that we started off by a great roll from you, Martin. So the prep fire shot flew in there with a 3 on the initial shot, and Toby. Then you'll see that we reveal what's going on there. So it was a full squad. It was the 9-1 leader. The leader wounded and then died on his wound severity roll, and we were looking pretty good at this point, weren't we?
We were looking very good.
Yeah.
And I'm still assuming that the ones at the back, therefore, must be dummies.
That's right, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So we start to run, and you can see that we start to run, and these guys start to look okay.
And then he reveals.
Yeah, another.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. So there's the other light machine gun, the other leader up here. So the fire lane gets pushed out. So you can see that we basically were stopped in our tracks with this fire lane. We didn't really push forward any further, and we had a chat about whether we were going to take this shot or not. This one down one shot. We get a morale check, and we did we end up pinning that? Yeah, we pinned, and then we assault moved with the 1 residual. You let me roll the dice, and you can see my bad rolling was pretty bad. So we then had a decision about whether to bring this little half squad to pick the light machine gun up and man the fire lane and get this squad back, and that's what we decided to do.
Yeah.
And you can see that we kind of try to make amends with some repositioning for our advanced phase. Now Toby, this is where he kind of flexed his muscles straight away, didn't he? Because the first thing he did here, didn't bother trying to rally the half squad there. He just grabbed the light machine gun with the leader off of the half squad, and eventually that will get transferred to the squad. At the moment, the leader has that. So you can see that's what he's doing there. He does a little bit of we had a problem, didn't we, with the boards? So the Vassal boards are very different from the standard boards, and this is perhaps something we haven't mentioned before when playing across different mechanisms, isn't it? When you're playing Vassal and you're playing on a live board, the boards are quite different. And in this instance, there was a great line of sight that we had to this squad, and so, but it was completely blocked on Toby's side. So we went with Toby's board for this one. So we had a bit of a chat about that, and we kind of zoomed in and showed Toby what was going on, but it was not a problem. So Toby starts to run very skillfully around our flanks to try to stop the progression of units, and then starts to kind of put some pressure. Now, the thing about this scenario really is all about not having prisoners, isn't it? The French don't want to lose any prisoners, and this is a kind of a key chance of how the French are going to lose this if we start having prisoners. And we talked before about it's almost much more worth taking interdiction checks and things like that if we get the option to, rather than to risk surrendering in a subsequent turn. So we'll see what happens there in a bit. So we start to move stuff around. We're talking about where we can move. Now, the red circles here is because Martin and I are discussing particular areas without Toby being able to see the board. So we were kind of prodding at the board without Toby being able to see it. So we start to run, and it's the usual kind of run here down the northern flanks, and we get another fire lane. Now, this is where we went a little bit wrong, because if you count this fire lane, this should be 8 hexes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 into here. I think at some point we got caught. We get caught here with these guys.
Yeah.
And then I think one of them's blocked. But we also get caught on a.
Yeah, that was my fault, wasn't it? We should have moved upstairs blatantly with the light machine gun half squad.
Right.
And then just advance back down to the ground level and put the fire lane back in. We lost the unit, but he got a KIA, didn't he? So
that's right.
He wasn't taken prisoner. Yeah.
Exactly that, and it's exactly what we wanted. Really, we didn't want any breaks in that position.
Yeah.
So we're going to go into turn 2 at this point for the French. Is this here? I think. Oh, for the Germans now. The Germans are starting to move back, and this really goes to show the game of movement, isn't it? Toby is absolutely moving his troops in position. The key area for this is this road, isn't it? For the Germans, they want to get hold of this road to stop the French being able to run across this road to slow us down a little bit more.
Yeah.
Now, this was interesting. So Toby then, and this has surprised me, Toby started moving everything upstairs in FF3, and I was surprised because I thought just get more guys coming down here. But I think he realised he was never going to win this race, and so the idea was you were going to be able to put some shots on DD9 here, and in order to be able to avoid the brush hindrance, and it's little things like that I think that make a big difference. That little one modifier.
That one modifier, but also the recognising the limitations of your position. You're not being able to catch up with the French means that he's got to find something useful to do with those guys, hasn't he?
Yeah, exactly. So we start to run back again. So our turn 3, we are looking like we can start to make some great progress here. And at this point, I'm kind of thinking we're almost home and dry here, aren't we?
That's what I felt. Yeah. We moved that squad down into the road because we wanted to make sure he couldn't come running down the road.
Yep, that's right. Right. Exactly that. And so Toby here, these guys are CX'd. So very cleverly, rather than prep firing into W8 here, mark them opportunity fire, take the shot in the advanced fire phase with no penalty and without no CX.
Yes.
Which is a good tip. So then the leader and the squad here are jumping upstairs, or they will eventually end up upstairs. And this half squad that becomes a bit of a thorn in our side up in E1 is going to be in a nice position there to catch us. So we have a little bit of ineffective defensive fire. Toby's now taking this position again, really surprising to me. I mean, the strength he's got up there, squad and a half, light machine gun, 8-1-1 leader, which is really only going to get a couple of shots off in here. So we can see that we have some good rallies here. This was the point where we had this 6+1 leader and a broken 457, adjacent to the German second line. And I said to you, Martin, just do us a favour and roll a double one. And you obliged. You rolled a double one. So yeah, that was good. So he went berserk, and we charged the CX guy. Yeah. Which again was great for us, because that was a very strong likelihood that those guys were going to get taken prisoner.
That's right.
And there was a lot of points there that we are potentially going to lose. So at this point, we are pretty much going to win this game unless we have these units here taken prisoner. This is the crux of it, really. We missed the line of sight here. This was my mistake. I was in charge of moving this guy. I completely missed this half squad in FF0, thinking it was a kind of a counter off the board, and forgot that there was a great line of sight there. So we lost that guy, but we were able to
by routing away that makes it difficult.
Yeah, exactly, and it's worth pointing out there in CC 10, he's able to route to BB9. He spots then the guys in what we're in close combat, and he's then able to carry on routing back. And there's no interdiction back here, and able to keep going. So it was quite a little bit sleazy of us, but we were able to do that. In close combat,
into the road again, don't we?
That's right. Yeah. So we come back into the road just to try and stop a little bit of fire here. Yeah. Close combat in the melee, both units wipe each other out. Yeah. So, and that's a great result for us, because it prevents them from getting taken prisoners.
Double points. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So we can see here that we are getting a fair amount of guys off. And Toby starts to run very quickly. Now, we had a bit of a discussion here about whether we were going to take the shot. The key thing here is that the German sniper is a 5. So we didn't think. I think we thought that the V8 guys were completely safe at this point. This is the German last turn, and so there's not a lot they can really do. Potentially just take this guy as prisoner, and that's what Toby's going to do. You can see he's just trying to prevent us from doing any kind of firing. You spot the tactic, which is that we're not gonna lose these guys because we can voluntarily route them.
Exactly,
so we're gonna break them at some point. And again, Toby just runs the final guys down the road just to basically see if we're going to take the shot. Sniper bait, that kind of stuff. We don't take the shot. In his advanced phase, he's going to move these guys here and these guys here in order to capture this guy at a subsequent point. But we are we win. I mean, basically,
exactly. Toby made a very good point that when we're sort of running off stacks with leaders and full platoons of 3 squads, that sniper on a 5, which is very likely to be impactful in the game, could just turn the game around completely, couldn't it? It's actually quite high risk running them off in a way, the way that we did.
Yes, that's right. You're absolutely right. So here's Toby's thoughts on the game.
So we played the game, I got a result, and unfortunately from my point of view, I lost. Certainly my gamble with my forward unit in the brush did not pay off. It got shredded on turn 1. So that wasn't a risk in the event not worth taking. The reason I put him there was I really wanted a fire lane possibility down to 42 EE7. But I think with hindsight, I'd withdraw that stack back to CC3 and just put dummies in the brush instead and tempt the French to waste a prep fire shot there if they wish. Other than that, I mean, he did get into the wood mass. I slowed him down on turn 1. And then, unfortunately, from my point of view, I took a couple of shots when he strayed into the open ground in front of my men. And I rolled low enough to get K results. And killing French is no good in this scenario. You have to capture them. And that's not easy to do, actually, when you've only got 4 turns to run around and get into a position to capture them. So I think, although it seemed like I was getting beaten pretty badly, if I'd actually captured the units that I instead killed, one of them in close combat, who was a berserker, if I'd actually captured them, I think I might just have won the scenario. Also, it's looking back on it now, I think it's a scenario very dependent on that German sniper. If you do get a sniper check and can hit one of those withdrawing stacks, especially if you do something against a leader, but even just slow them down, then it's perfectly possible that the game swings the other way. But yeah, as I say, I took a risk. It didn't pay off, and if I ever played it again, I wouldn't take that risk. I'd withdraw that unit back because you can't. It's an effective fire lane anyway, from CC3 out to 42 FF10, and the other light machine gun can help prevent them getting into that wood mass on turn 1, which is all you can do really. That's your aim, and then you can hope you can move forward a bit. But yes, you've got to capture the French, not just kill them, and that's not always easy to do. So it was interesting. It's interesting having scenarios where the one side has to withdraw, basically a fighting withdrawal, and to nominate some troops to stay behind and stave off the enemy's pursuit. So it's interesting, but perhaps it's a little bit too dependent upon the sniper, which I think, I wonder if the German wins that have been recorded on Raw have occurred when someone's rolled a 5, the French have rolled a 5, and then suddenly the German sniper wins the game, basically, which I think could happen. Okay, but yeah, it was fun. I enjoyed it, and await our next game.
Oh, I was going to say, so Dave, do you think this is a balanced scenario? Because we've played it twice now, and the French have won quite easily, I suppose, on the 2 times we played it properly.
Yeah, I think so. I was looking at the raw ratings, and so it still has the Germans favoured. So on raw we've got it's 2-1 on the Germans, and on the archive now we've got, including our play, it'll be 4-3 to the Germans. So again, favouring the Germans rather than the French. We think it's pro-French. The fact that you and I can beat an expert, and Toby is an expert, and we also played into his strength of his setup as well. So we had probably the hardest version of that in terms of, if the Germans set up strong on the northern flank and we set up strong on the northern flank, and we're both trying to run off that same side, that's probably the best chance the German has of a win, perhaps.
Yeah.
So
it does have that sort of rock, paper, scissors kind of quality to it, doesn't it? If you sort of try to second guess which side is the strongest. Yeah,
exactly that. So to me it's not. Now I don't particularly, I've told you before, I don't particularly care about balanced scenarios. I think, as long as people are in with a shout, and as you saw, we were only a squad away from losing that game. If we were,
absolutely,
we had one more squad taken off, and that was all down to, I think, pretty much, which is not really a sign of a great scenario, but it was all down to that first prep fire shot, wasn't it? We had that great, if you'd have rolled an 11 on that,
we would have been. Yeah. We could have resigned there and then almost. Yeah.
Exactly. So,
and I think a good sniper, also could have the effect of swinging it very dramatically back towards the Germans.
Yeah. And talking of swings, are you on a swing there? You're quite.
Oh,
you look
sorry.
Like, it's all right. You look like you're on a boat. It's okay. It's okay.
I forget that you can all see me.
Yeah, that's all right. It's okay.
Could have been a lot worse. Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about Toby's offer of help. So Toby has again offered to help people. So please do give us a shout about questions you've got. Especially, we'll give priority obviously to patrons if you have a particular question. So don't be shy. Come up with a question. Toby would love to give you a good answer to that. And here's Toby's first segment about how to get better.
Another thing I volunteered to do for Dave and Martin is basically offer a session on tips, basically, where patrons or other listeners could ask questions of strategy, tactics, sort of ask Toby session, or more modestly consult the master, perhaps. But anyway, Dave came back to me with a question, which is a very simple one, which is basically, how does one improve one's game? It's very simple, but rather far-reaching and wide. But it did get me thinking. I thought, if I could prefer one piece of advice to a player to improve their game, what would it be? And here it is, basically. It is this: prep, fire less. If you are the defender, the ideal game, the perfect game, which would never happen, is to never prep fire at all and save all of your firing against the enemy in the defensive fire phase. And not prep firing, therefore skulking, should be one of the main aims of any defender. You know, when you're looking at the board, looking at buildings, woods, cover, one of the main things that should be in your head is, can a unit in this location skulk? So by prep firing less, that will improve your defense. It will also improve your game when you attack. Basically, if you do not move, you will not win a game of ASL if you're the attacker. So it really is a game of movement, and the less you prep fire, the better off you'll be. And you can sort of teach yourself this. It's a little exercise I did with someone a while ago. Was I said, just other than unless there's something that's got a support weapon, okay, or a gun, you know, fine, you can prep fire those, but you only ever have one other prep, okay, and everything else must move, and keep to that restriction. Play a scenario as the attacker, keeping to that restriction. Hopefully a simple scenario where you can, unless a unit has a support weapon, you only ever get one prep and then everything else must move. And I think doing that, although it'll feel rather odd, should improve your game. Generally speaking, prep less, either as the attacker or the defender. That's it.
Okay, all right. So excellent advice from Toby, and you know, it is an interesting challenge to really try to limit your prep fire, and I think it's something I'll be thinking about a little bit more as well as I go forward.
Absolutely.
So, all right, Martin. So yeah.
Yep. So next week we'll hopefully be featuring Galician Getaway. We're about halfway through that game at the moment, aren't we?
Are you enjoyed it?
Absolutely. Very, very interesting scenario. I mean, we both think that we're losing all the time, which I always think is a good sign of an outstanding scenario.
That's right. It had a peculiar setup issue, didn't it? We'll highlight. We played the first 4 turns, and we'll highlight some of the craziness of that. But it is a good scenario, and we are enjoying it. And that's from the full rulebook pack. Over from the Kansas City Encircle Productions. I think it's $10. I think including shipping, something like that. It's some crazy good
fantastic value.
I mean, maybe it's 15, but it's it's there or thereabouts. Again, really good scenario. So we're looking forward to playing to the end of that. And I am also going to try and get you out a T-shirt, Martin, as soon as I can.
You know, I think it's outrageous that I don't have a T-shirt yet, and I'm one of the Illuminating rounds.
I think this whole whether it was essential travel or not, and I still can't convince myself it is, but I hope everybody else is doing well and safe and
we've still got some for sale, haven't we? If anybody's slimmer build.
No, the other way around. The larger ones. So we've got the XL and the XXL sizes left.
Okay.
So that's what we've got left. So if you want a T-shirt, get in touch with us. We'll do you a good deal, I'm sure. Patrons are getting them as we speak, although I still can't send them out yet, so don't panic. Same with Eric as well with his pack, just because I can't get out to the post office yet. But when we're able to, which maybe in a few weeks, sounds like we're turning the curve there, or flattening the curve or something. But
yeah.
So I guess until then, everybody, thanks again for your patronage. Thanks for your input. Please do send us some questions about for Toby.
Yep.
Give us some advice about the Seabourne Assault that you think we should be playing, and also anything else you want us to feature or cover. Thanks again to everyone who donates to the archive and who contributes to the archive. And Martin, thanks for the glorious victory against Toby.
It was magnificent. I'm sure that the return match might be a bit more gory in a very different way.
Toby often talks about not wanting to play small scenarios against players because it doesn't give him a chance to flex his muscles, as it were.
Yeah.
And I certainly felt like we had him. We had a pro unbalanced scenario where we had the favoured side and your dice rolling. So yeah, he never stood a chance, really, did he?
No, I look forward to the next game against him, though.
Absolutely. All right. Okay. Well, I guess until then, see you soon.
See you soon. Thanks,
Cheers.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
That keep that site curated. So again, thank you very much, Martin.
Yeah.
No, I can't hear you.